Hey everybody, welcome to the videos where we're breaking down the O'Reilly Auto Parts 253 at the Daytona Road Course on Sunday, February 21st at around 3 p.m. Eastern. And yes, we are back at Daytona. Well, I guess they never left, but we're shifting from the oval to the road course, which should be a pretty entertaining race, especially if it's anything like the Busch Clash that we saw on February 9th. That was a very, very fun race, and I think we're going to be in for a treat this Sunday. But if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. And while you're at it, you might as well hit that notification bell as well, so you don't miss out whenever I post new content. And YouTube tells us around 50% of the people who watch these videos have not yet subscribed, so if you're a frequent visitor to the channel, or if you're just new and like what you see, consider that subscribe button because it really helps the channel grow. That's obviously going to help me out as well. And the more you guys interact with my content, leaving likes, leaving comments, all that good stuff, it's going to help the video get to more eyeballs. And the more eyeballs that see this video, that's obviously going to help me out. So I really do appreciate it. And my NASCAR community does a very good job of that already. So I want to thank you guys for that. And if you guys want to follow me over on social media, you know, in the bottom hand corner of your screen, I'm at Pennell16 on Twitter, CPenn16 over on IG. And if you help support the channel over on Patreon, that is always much appreciated. Link is down below for that. I'll throw something on the screen so you know exactly what you get, but it's only $10 a month. Lots and lots and lots of good information on there. I think we had well over 100 people sign up just last week, and I do appreciate that, guys, so thank you very much for that. But you get access to a ton of content, main sheet, projections, power rankings, cheat sheet, GPP driver exposures. I can't be more transparent than that. My exact exposures in the big tournament that DraftKings hosts each and every single week. Green flag speed cheat sheets, previous optimal lineups, recent race slate analysis, a whole bunch of stuff. Starting position track stats. I even have the aero package schedule, my content schedule, the driver crew chief information. Lots of good stuff on here. I also post an article each and every single week, and you can hop into the Discord chat as well, which is pretty active throughout the day, any time of the day, any part of the week. Lots of fun people in there, and everyone's nice, so it's always a good time in the Discord chat. You can ask me questions at any point, and we always chat up there talking NASCAR. Some people, I know I don't personally cover Xfinity or trucks, but I do know people in the Discord chat play it, so if you ever need help in there, I'm sure people will be more than happy to help you out in that regard. But I think that's pretty much it for the shameless plug, so without further ado, let's get into the preview of this race. And as per tradition, I did forget to mention a couple things, but number one, live stream schedule this weekend. I will be going live on my own channel, probably around 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I could push that to 11 because I do know people on the West Coast. I wouldn't want to get up at 7:30 either. That sounds absolutely awful. So I would plan on it starting either around 10:30 or 11. Then I'll be live on the Awesemo Live Before Lock NASCAR show at 2 p.m. Eastern with Jason and myself. We'll be doing that for just really an hour before the race starts. So from 2 to 3 p.m. you can come in there, ask questions. We'll be breaking it all down there. And if you want to get into the DraftKings contest like I did last week, just leave your username down below in the comments and say something nice with it or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. But the first 100 people that accept the invite, you are in the contest. Well, I guess the first 99 because I will be in there as well. And I'm definitely going to save the spots for my girlfriend. So let's make it 98 spots, the first 98 spots. But I do want to give a quick shout out to the people who won last week. So in first place, we had RRT. And then I think there's like 4 or 5 fours after that. He took home first place. I'll put that on the screen. Second place, Dirty Bird 27, then third place, Mengel 02. These were the top 3 winners in there. I finished 18th. I didn't do bad, but I needed to be top 3. So those are the guys that got the shout out this week, and I want to thank you guys for joining the contest. It always makes it fun to play with you guys and against you guys. It makes it pretty interactive, and I love interacting with you guys. So I like doing those each and every single week. So username down below if you won the contest, and I will send you the invite. The first, I guess, 98, 99 people that happen to accept it, you are in. So anyway, getting into the preview of this race, this is the O'Reilly Auto Parts 253 at the Daytona Road Course, and obviously the type is a road course. It's got it in the name. It's about 3.5, 3.6 miles in length. I've actually seen multiple actual lengths for it. I think I saw a 3.56 and I saw a 3.61, so I thought I'd meet it into the middle at around 3.6. There's only 70 laps, which means dominator points, once again, are not going to be that important. Only 49 dominator points available, and actually, looking at the starting positions this week, our lineups might look pretty similar to our lineups last week, where we're targeting mostly guys in the back. Now, last week, I definitely wouldn't have played Chase out on the pool. This is different this week. Chase out on the pool this week is obviously a very, very strong play, but it does make him a bit riskier for where he's starting relative to where these other guys in his price range are starting. So something to keep in mind. But the guys starting further back that can pick up spots, those are going to be better plays overall than the guys starting closer to the front. So for the most part, I'm mainly focusing on place differential and finishing position upside on this slate, but I definitely think we can target guys starting up front for tournaments. And I guess maybe a guy like Chase Elliott would be a fringe cash play just because of how good he is at a road course, but I'm not going to get into that yet. I'll talk about that in probably a few minutes since he's the second most expensive driver. But yeah, it's pretty much the strategy for this race. With the lack of laps, guys that can pick up place differential spots and finish pretty high, those are our main targets for this race. So I think without further ado, we can get into the driver-by-driver breakdown portion of this video. Which now, before we actually start talking about the drivers, I do want to mention that I think DraftKings did a very good job on the pricing this week for our drivers, because if they would have priced guys like Allmendinger in the $7,000 range, because I was really concerned of what they would do with Allmendinger, because we know he's a good road course racer starting in the back. I was worried though, because he's not really a full cup guy these days, that they would price him like in that $7,000, $8,000 range. Fortunately, they kind of gave him the Christopher Bell treatment where they priced him all the way up. So I'm hoping all these guys up top, because they're all very good plays, Truex, Elliott, Blaney, Allmendinger, you can't just play out 4 of those guys. There's definitely decisions to be made. You're probably going to be sticking to around 2 of those guys max, maybe even 1 in some lineups. Just, I guess it depends on how you want to build your lineups. But I think there's definitely decisions to be made, which is good because it, makes it less chalky. I feel like all those guys, the ownership could be very, very spread out. But anyway, up top, we have Martin Truex Jr., $11,000. He is starting 19th. And at road courses in NASCAR, it's pretty much been Chase Elliott, the 1A, and then Martin Truex Jr., the 1B. These guys have absolutely dominated the road courses recently. They're pretty much 1 and 2 in all their rankings, looking at the statistics. Now, if we're looking at the stat sheet, so instead of having just the 1 race sample size that we had at the Daytona Road Course last year in the Busch class, which I didn't really want to include in this, I'm just looking at the past 4 races at Robles, which is really the entire history we have at Robles for NASCAR, because I would say the Charlotte Roval is the most comparable road course track to the Daytona Road Course, because they're both Robles. And I'm still looking at Sonoma and Watkins Glen as well in the track type form, but I do want to kind of focus in on these Robles here. But Truex, his numbers aren't quite as good as Chase Elliott. I mean, Chase Elliott has been absolutely fantastic at the Robles. He's won 3 out of the 4 races here, but Truex has been absolutely phenomenal road courses overall. And if you guys watch the Busch Clash, which I don't really want to focus in too much for this race because that is just an expedition race and half the field was missing, but Truex easily had the best car there. He started in the back, he worked his way to the front. I believe he got a penalty on pit road, had a drop to the rear. I forget exactly what happened. And then soon after that, he made his way back to the front through the entire field again before getting wrecked out, and I think he finished dead last. So Truex, I mean, starting 19th here, he offers you a place differential upside, and he could very well win this race, or at least challenge Chase Elliott for the win, because looking at the Vegas odds, Chase Elliott is obviously the clear favorite to win this race, and Martin Truex Jr. is right behind him. I think it's like plus 225, and then Truex is at plus 400. So yeah, I definitely like Truex's chances of at least trying to get up front or competing for the win here, but he should definitely gain some spots outside of a mechanical failure. But he did finish 3rd here last year at the road course, and looking at his numbers overall at the road courses, I mean, he's pretty much, if he's not first in that category, it's because Chase Elliott's first, but these guys are first and second in literally each and every single category. I double checked that. So these guys are phenomenal. The most laps led, the most fast laps, the most top 5s, wins, driver rating, whatever, you name it. These guys are phenomenal. So Truex, I think he's a very strong play. Now the thing is, I'm not sure if I'm going to get there in cash games, because I think he's a great play, but he's $11,000, and you got guys like Chase Elliott right below him, which I'm not sure if I'll go with Chase Elliott in cash games either, as crazy as that sounds. But you got Ryan Blaney starting all the way back in 27th. He's cheaper. Then Allmendinger's nearly $1,000 cheaper. He's starting all the way back in 34th. So I mean, I feel like there's just a little bit more risk there because of where he's starting, but I really don't think there's any risk whatsoever with Truex. I mean, I would say he's one of the best plays on the entire slate. Very, very strong chance he finishes inside the top 3, and he should contend for a win as well. I know in 4 road course races at the Robles, he only has 1 top 5, but that was actually last year at the specific track. So I like Truex a lot. He looked good in the Busch Clash, and he should be a phenomenal play on Sunday. It's just that price is really tough to get up there, but he's someone you definitely want exposure to, as he could very easily win this race. And then what you've all been waiting for, it's no secret, but Chase Elliott is very, very good at road courses, and he starts on the pole, so it could be a very long day for the field. There's a decent chance he could lead well over half the laps here, which, again, there's only 70 laps, so it won't amount to too many dominator points, but if he happens to lead the majority of this race and finish first, very strong chance he could make the optimal lineup even with all these place differential plays. But the thing is, I'm not sure if I'm going to go there in cash games, because if anything happens to Chase Elliott, you know, he misses a turn, he goes too hard into a turn, something happens on pit road, flat tire, someone wrecks him, whatever, very strong chance he would not make the optimal starting him first, especially with all the place differential guys around him. Truex 19th, Blaney 27th, Allmendinger 34th, and even if you want to go lower, lots and lots of good place differential plays. So I would very likely say Chase Elliott is going to win this race. He's won 4 road course races in a row. He's won 3 out of the 4 Roval races, the best driver rating, best running position, average finish of 2.3, which is insane, over 60 DraftKings points per race. He's been in the top 10 every single time, actually the second most laps led, but Kyle Larson only has 2 total races, so if we take that out of the equation, he's got the most laps led. So yeah, Chase Elliott, I mean, the guy has phenomenal road courses. That's no secret. I'm pretty sure everyone that does NASCAR DFS content will say that to you. He won first here last year, and I mean, the guy's great. I have nothing bad to say about Chase Elliott whatsoever. Past 10 races of road courses, he's won half of them, the most laps led. Second most fast laps only to Martin Truex, but these guys are first and second every single category. I already said that. So Elliott, it's going to be really hard not to want to play him. Now in cash games, though, again, the place differential upside is what's I feel like makes it a little bit hard to get there because he is a little expensive. And if we want to look at the heat map, I'll give you guys another freebie. I mean, usually this is just on Patreon, but Chase Elliott winning, it's 45 points. Now, that's not factoring Dominator points. I assume he's going to get quite a bit of Dominator points here, but again, only 70 laps and only 49 total. So let's just say we gave him half the Dominator points. That's still not a ton. We're still looking at plus 25, so just quick math there, we're talking about 70 points. Now, but if someone like Truex, he happens to finish in second, he can get you 59 points, and I have to assume at some point he's probably going to lead some laps, and he's going to pick up some fast laps, so he could very easily be right there with Chase Elliott. But some of these monster place differential guys, like AJ Allmendinger, if he happened to win the race, that's 78 points, not even factoring in any fast laps or anything like that. So I guess that would be the case against Chase Elliott in cash games, but trust me when I say it, I want to make it sound like I don't like him because I love him. I mean, I think he's a phenomenal play. I think he wins this race, and if he does win this race, and it's a good chunk of laps, I mean, he'll be in the winning lineup. But I do think his ownership, because heading into the week, I thought Chase Elliott was the no-brainer chalk pick. Put him in your cash game on him because he's going to dominate the race and win, which is probably going to happen, but Allmendinger could very easily get in the top 10. He's got the 3rd best odds in Vegas to win this race. Same with Ryan Blaney. They're starting so far back. So if anything happens to Chase Elliott, he doesn't have that built-in floor like the other guys do. So that's something to keep in mind. But Chase Elliott, I mean, he should be a great play. I think he wins this race. So I definitely want exposure, especially in tournaments. And I mean, I feel like it's a fringe cash play, and I hate saying that because Chase Elliott is such a good play. It's just there's so many good place differential guys. So I feel like in cash games, you want to focus on the place differential guys. And I think Chase Elliott's a very, very, very strong tournament play with a fringe cash game play mark on him. So that's my kind of thoughts on Chase Elliott. Then Ryan Blaney, 10,400. He is starting 27th. He is way back in the pack. And I think looking at last year's finish at the Roval, or the Daytona Road Course, I should say, is probably a waste of time because his not average finish, his finish was 31st, and he was definitely running way better than 31st. I want to say it was either the last lap specifically or the last 2 laps. I know he restarted around 12th place or 12th to 15th place, and he did start in the back in that race too. So he's actually looking like a pretty strong play. I remember having quite a bit of Ryan Blaney. So it's actually a very similar scenario this time because he's starting in the back once again, but he dropped like a rock. I want to say he had a penalty on the track where he had to stop and go. I can't remember exactly. I do apologize. I'm sure someone remembers. They can remind me in the comment section. But he had to stop, and then he finished in 31st and absolutely sunk my lineup. So you guys know I love Ryan Blaney, and I had a good chunk of him, and I think he went from like 12th to 15th all the way into the 30s. So that definitely sucked, but assuming that doesn't happen again, the guy's pretty good at the Rovals. In 4 races at the Rovals, he has 2 top 5s, has a win. Overall, some pretty strong numbers. The guy's not half bad at all the road courses as well. Looking at the past 10 races at these, a win, 4 top 5s, 7 top 10s. Ryan Blaney, assuming something silly doesn't happen like what happened last year, he's going to be a very, very strong play. So I definitely like Blaney starting all the way back in 27th. I think he's cash and tournament viable. And then AJ Allmendinger at $10,200. He is starting 34th. So if you guys don't know who Allmendinger is, you're probably like, why would I pay $10,200 for him? But the thing to know about AJ Allmendinger, he's no longer a full Cup driver, but he did run the Xfinity Series last year and was very, very strong in those races. And actually did you guys the liberty of looking up his Xfinity numbers last year at road courses, and I will read them to you right now. So he had an average running position of 8.19, average finish of 2.75, a driver rating of 121.075, an average of 5.75 laps led per race, and it's the same exact for the fast laps as well. And always in the Cup Series, the guy's always been a factor at road courses. He actually has the 3rd best odds to win this race according to Vegas, and he's starting all the way back in 34th. And I showed you guys that heat map of Allmendinger. The guy has a massive upside here, so if you want to play him in cash games over all these guys in here, I would not be against that. Now, the only knock against him is that his equipment's definitely not the greatest. He's in the 16 car, and I mean, it's a little bit iffy, but the thing about road courses is that equipment won't matter as much as it would like an intermediate track. It's kind of like a super speedway where equipment's not going to matter too much. And at a road course, it's mostly based on driver skill, guys that are great at road courses, and AJ Allmendinger definitely fits that bill. The guy's phenomenal at the road courses. So starting all the way back in 34th, he's the cheapest of all the drivers we talked about so far. It's hard not to like him here. I think he's one of the overall top plays on the slate. I think he's right up there at the very top of my projections this week. So I definitely like AJ Allmendinger. The floor is really high. The ceiling is very high. I know people might be scared off because of the equipment, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. If he gets a top 10, the guy, he's going to crush on DraftKings for the most part. So yeah, I definitely like Allmendinger, and I will have a good chunk of him this weekend for sure, starting all the way back in 34th. And then dropping down to the final guy of this $10,000 range, he's exactly $10,000, and it's the Candyman Kyle Busch starting back in 14th. Now, the starting spot's definitely going to make him a GPP-only play, but I would not hate being overweight on Kyle Busch in tournaments. He did win the Busch Clash. Now, you got to keep in mind, he got a bit lucky there because Chase Elliott took out Ryan Blaney at the end, and then Kyle Busch was the main benefactor there, but he was pretty good in that race. He was running third, so it's not like he was having a bad race or anything. You're completely lucky. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time at the very end of the race, but still had a pretty strong overall race. Now, if we're looking at his recent Roval races, they're not good at all. He's averaging negative 12 DraftKings points per race, an average finish of 34th, which is insanely bad, I should say. Now, the running position is a better indicator of how he was. 15.6 is not that bad. And you got to remember, last year, he got into a little bit of trouble earlier with his tires, so he's kind of riding around the back for the most part, which is going to kill the average running position. So he's definitely not this bad. The guy's not bad at road courses. I know these numbers make it seem like that, especially the Rovals. He hasn't even had a top 20 finish yet. 1 lap led and 1.5 fast laps, averaging negative 23 place differential spots per race at the Rovals. But if we expand this to the past 10 races at road courses, the numbers get a lot better. Running position at 12, which is actually 0.4 spots better than Ryan Blaney. No wins, but 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, some laps led, and some fast laps in there as well. I don't hate playing Kyle Busch in tournaments because all the exposure is going to Allmendinger, Blaney, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. I'm sure some other guys will be higher owned in this $9,000 range as well. So if Kyle Busch is going to be decently low owned, I would not mind being overweight on that because he's due for some good luck at a Roval because he's not going to continue just finishing that bad. If he happens to get into the top 5 and some other guys have some issues right above him, you could have some leverage in tournaments. I wouldn't say he's my favorite play in the world, but there is some top 5 upside here, and I did like that he won the Clash. I mean, I know it's not something we should put too much of an emphasis on, but it was nice to see. And he actually he's tied for the 3rd best odds to win this race in Vegas. I think he's tied with Allmendinger, Blaney, and Denny Hamlin. They're all kind of grouped together. I'm not sure if those odds have changed, but the last time I looked, they were all kind of grouped together. And the Joe Gibbs cars tend to run very well at the road courses. So Kyle Busch, he's a decent tournament play, but definitely not a guy I'd go for in cash games. Dropping down to the $9,000 range, his teammate Denny Hamlin, $9,800. He's starting 4th. I like the price tag. The thing is, it's just going to be really hard to click on Denny Hamlin's name over the place differential guys that are kind of in his price range. So definitely a tournament-only play for me. But Denny Hamlin's not bad at the road courses. He gave Chase Elliott a run for his money last year in this race. He looked good in the Busch Clash. I think he's a tournament-only play. Now, the thing is, if I'm going to play a guy up front, I want it to be Chase Elliott for the most part because I really think the 2 main guys that can lead laps early on before these place differential guys get involved are Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin. But it's definitely going to be hard for Hamlin to pass Chase Elliott early on unless Elliott has an issue with his car. They didn't nail the setup right, and Denny Hamlin just has a really fast race car, which is definitely possible. So I like getting some exposure to Denny Hamlin. His numbers at the Rovals aren't like super impressive, but like I was just mentioning, he's tied for the 3rd best odds to win this race in Vegas, unless those have changed. But he does have a top 5, which was last year. He did finish 2nd in that race. 3 top 15s, 1 top 10. Overall, not the most amazing numbers, but looking at his numbers overall at road courses, very strong. Average finish of 8.7, which I believe is 4th best of all these drivers. No wins recently, but 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and 9 top 15s. So he should be a factor in this race. It's just starting 4th. It does make him a bit risky compared to where these other guys are starting, so that's something to keep in mind. Brad Keselowski at $9,600. He's starting 15, so he's kind of in that no man's land where do you really want to play him? Because, I mean, he should contend for a top 10, but the thing is, his road course numbers aren't exactly the most impressive thing in the world. Not saying he's bad by any means. He's got an average running position of 12.1, which is much better than his average finish of nearly 17th place. Driver rating's not that bad. Let's have a top 5 at a Roval, but only 2 top 15s and 3 top 20s. I mean, I think he's okay, but do we really think he's going to outscore some of these place differential guys? I'll have a little bit of exposure in tournaments because I imagine he's going to be pretty low owned, but not be surprised if he's around that 10% range, which I guess is not a bad thing for Keselowski. Because Keselowski, I said it last year, he's always that guy that sometimes gets overlooked, but he always ends up being there at the end. I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen this race, but at some point, he should find his way close to the front. We're going to wish we had a little bit more Keselowski now. It might not end that way, but he should be a factor at some point, starting 15th. I mean, there's a little bit of place differential upside. He's starting 4 spots higher than Martin Truex, but he's not nearly the road course race that Martin Truex Jr. has been recently. So Keselowski, I'll have a little bit of exposure, but probably nothing too crazy. Same goes for his teammate Joey Logano at $9,400. He's starting in 11th. Now, the thing is, he's actually been pretty strong at the Rovals, and he did have a third place finish at the Busch Clash. The numbers are overall solid. Average finish to 7.8. Has a top 5, 4 top 10. So the 4 Roval races we've had, he's finished in the top 10 each and every single time. It's just starting 11th. Again, he's in that tough spot with Keselowski, where is he really going to gain that many spots where it's going to make him a better play than a lot of those place differential guys? Like Alex Bowman, he's $400 cheaper. He's starting all the way back in 36. It's going to be very, very hard for Alex Bowman not to outscore Joey Logano here. So that's why I'm not too excited about any of these guys over here. Same goes with Kevin Harvick. Really, this whole $9,000 range besides Bowman, they're all fully GPP plays that should have low ownership. Because it's going to be really hard to just click on those guys' names and we can get Alex Bowman all the way back in 36. So Logano, he's a fine tournament play, but probably won't have too much exposure there. But I'm not going to full fade the guy. Now, Kevin Harvick at $9,200, he is starting 5th. All his races at the Daytona Road Course so far, which I know is not a large sample size, but we had the Road Course race last year at Daytona. Now we have the Busch Clash. Kevin Harvick loves spinning out at this track. I don't know what it is, but every single time the camera cuts really quick, it's because Kevin Harvick's in the grass or he's spinning somehow. I don't know what it is. Kevin Harvick is a good road course racer. I was looking at my power rankings and stuff, which is kind of just based off of, statistics at road courses. Kevin Harvick does not grade out bad whatsoever. And if we're looking at the Roval races, top 5, 2 top 10, some laps led. He's also looking at the past 10 races at the road courses, some really strong numbers here. Actually, some of the best numbers in the series. But at this road course specifically, I don't know what it is, but Kevin Harvick does not like it. He does not really run well here. Starting 5th, I mean, I'm not going to full fade it because it is Kevin Harvick. Maybe he's figured out some things since a couple weeks ago, but I think it's very likely he probably finishes outside the top 5. I don't think he's going to go up front. I have a hard time seeing him pass Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott at any point in this race. And if he finishes right around where he starts, he's not going to outscore guys like Bowman, maybe even Eric Jones, and definitely not Blaney, Allmendinger, and those kind of guys, or Truex. So definitely don't love Kevin Harvick. Maybe just a sprinkle of exposure in case he happens to figure it out and get up front at some point, or pit strategy happens to work out. But he does not run typically very well at the Daytona Road Course. It's a small sample size, but from what I've seen so far, I definitely don't like it. And then dropping down to Alex Bowman, he's pretty much the best play on the slate when you factor in the price tags and things like that. Like, yeah, Allmendinger, Blaney, Elliott, Truex are all amazing plays, but they're all very, very pricey. Bowman, though, at $9,000, he is very good at the Roval so far, and he's starting all the way back in 36. So he is a cash game lock for me. If you're building a cash lineup without Alex Bowman, I think you are making a mistake. I mean, the guy's an average finish of 6.5 in 4 Roval races, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and he's finished inside the top 15 each and every single time. I know his average finish is a lot better than his average running position, but still overall the guy's a very good road course racer. Last year he had an incident early, ended up fixing that later on in the race and had a pretty good finish. So I definitely like Alex Bowman here. It's going to be very hard for me not to play him. I don't think we have to go too more in depth than that. He was 4th in average green flag speed at the 2 road course races last year, so Alex Bowman is all systems go for me. I would say he's pretty much my favorite play in the slate. If he's not my favorite, he's definitely very, very close to it, if not. And then dropping down to William Byron, I think there's a lot of good tournament plays in this price range. Now, there's a nice cash game play, I guess, with MDB starting all the way back in 32nd. But this is a good range for a lot of good tournament plays because I feel like a lot of people aren't going to have exposure to these guys because if they're going to go top heavy with guys like Elliott, Truex, Blaney, Dinger, they're not going to be able to just kind of live in this $8,000 range that easily because I'm assuming they're going to play Bowman as well. So it's going to be hard to play some guys in this $8,000 range. So if they're going to be lower owned, I don't mind being overweight on nearly all of these guys for the most part because I definitely think they have some upside because I definitely think we could see some stars and scrubs lineups for the most part here. But William Byron, he typically brings speed at these types of tracks, and actually looking at his numbers, not that bad. A drive rating of over 100, a running position of 11.1, no top 5s, but he's finished inside the top 10 3 out of the 4 Roval races. He's been a lap leader as well. Looking at the past 10 races at road courses, or I guess the 8 road course races for him, he's got 4 top 10s, 4 top 5s, but specifically at the Rovals, the guy's not been that bad. And last year, it was only 2 road course races, and they were both the Rovals. He had the best average green flag speed rating of all the drivers. So starting in 22nd, he's not starting so far back where he's going to be like an elite place differential play, but there's definitely top 5 upside here. He finished 8th last year at this race, and if he does that at decently low ownership, because he's really a direct pivot off of Alex Bowman. Now, you can certainly play both together, but if people are just going to click on Bowman's name and scroll down, I definitely think William Byron should be lower owned. I think he's a very, very strong tournament play on the slate. Maybe one of my favorite tournament plays as well. And then right below him, Kurt Busch, another guy I love in tournaments. I mean, these guys are very, very strong tournament plays. I don't think their ownership is going to be too crazy, but Kurt Busch is one of the better road course drivers in the entire series, and at the Robles, he's not been that bad. He's finished at the top 5 and 50% of the time. I know it's only a 4-race sample size, but he's finished at the top 20 each and every single time, an average finish of 10.8, a really good running position. We're looking at overall the past 10 races of road courses. He's got some of the best numbers, close to 42 DraftKings points per race, an average finish inside the top 10, 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s. I think it's a very strong chance we find Kurt Busch inside the top 10 here, and the ownership should be decently low, so I'm definitely in on being overweight on Kurt here in tournaments on Sunday. Then Chase Briscoe, the rookie, $8,400, starting 18th. If you don't know anything about Chase Briscoe, he's actually a very, very strong road course racer. In the car he's in now, which is what Clint Bowyer used to drive in, Clint Bowyer was also a very good road course racer, so this car can definitely handle the road courses. So I think Chase Briscoe, being a rookie at $8,400, I definitely think the ownership will be pretty low. Now, it is a risky play because he's a rookie, you know, making his first Cup Series start in a road course, so there's always a risk to be had there, but you know, if he happens to run very, very well here, we saw Gralla last year. He finished at the top 10 at the road course, so anything can happen. Chase Briscoe's got some sneaky top 10 upside here, so if you want a really low in play, I think Briscoe might be a step in the right direction there if you're looking for a nice leverage on the field. And looking at Briscoe's numbers in the Xfinity Series last year at the road courses, pretty good. Running position of 6.5, average finish of 12.75, drive rating of 118.6, average nearly 20 laps led per race and close to 10 fast laps. So yeah, I don't mind Chase Briscoe in tournaments here. I'm not saying it's a super safe play by any means, but I think there is a little bit of upside there for sure. And then Kyle Larson, I like the price tag. We know the guy is in a very good car. We know Kyle Larson is one of the best overall just talented drivers in the field. Starting 8th though makes it a bit tougher to want to roster him, but in the 2 races he has at Robles, not that bad. Now, he didn't obviously race at the road course last year because he was on his suspension or whatever you want to call it, but the 2 races at the Charlotte road course, or Roval, whatever you want to call it, average running position inside the top 10, a drive rating of 110.2. Now, the finishes weren't good. As you can see, an average finish of 19th compared to his really good average running position. So, again, things happen, but the Dominator points that he had in those races, averaged 26 laps led per race and close to 20 fast laps. So, there might be a little bit of upside here for Kyle Larson. It's just, he's starting so far up. I mean, he's going to have to get a top 5 because these other place differential guys could very easily knock him out of the water here. Now, his 8 races at road courses recently, I mean, they're okay. Running position at 12.7. No top 5s, though. 3 top 10s and 5 top 15s. I mean, the numbers aren't amazing. They're not terrible either. Maybe a little bit of exposure on Kyle Larson, but I don't really like him a lot here. MDB, $8,100. He's starting 32nd. He's a fine place differential play. I don't think he's going to be a major contender here, but he has top 15 potential, top 10 upside. I mean, in the 4 races at Robles, he's finished inside the top 15 3 times out of 4, so not that bad. Average finish of 15.3. And if he finishes around 15th, just his average, that's going to be pretty good in DraftKings scoring. He finished 15th place here last year. Looking at his overall numbers at road courses, he does have a top 5 finish, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 15s. So I think he's probably going to be in that 10 to 16 range, which is not bad for where he's starting. So MDB, he's a very solid play. I wouldn't say I like him more than Eric Jones starting 37th, but I think he's overall a very strong play. I don't think his ownership is going to be that high, so I'm not sure if he's going to be a better tournament play, but either way, I do like MDB because he does have top 15 upside starting near the back of the field. Then getting into the $7,000 range, we have Eric Almirola, $7,100. He is starting 26th, so obviously he's going to be a pretty good place differential play. Now, the thing about Almirola, he's not the best road course racer by any means, but he does have top 10 upside. And looking at his numbers at Rovals, he has a top 15, 3 top 20s, which I know is not amazing. And if we're looking at the past 10 races at road courses overall, I mean, they're not terrible numbers. Average finish is 16.1, no top 5s, 2 top 10s, 4 top 15s. Not amazing, but doesn't really have to be amazing for he's starting in 26. Now, I don't think he's as good of a play as Eric Jones, starting 11 spots further back. And I don't think he's as good of a play as MDB, starting, quick math here, 6 spots further back. So I think his ownership's going to be relatively low, but I do want exposure to Almirola because he does have top 15, top 10 upside here. So, yeah, I definitely want to get a little bit of Eric Almirola in my lineups. He's a very popular play for the Clash, and he ended up having a pretty strong race. So, definitely don't mind Almirola. Eric Jones, $7,100. He is starting all the way back in 37th. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. Now, I know I say that pretty much every single week, and he tends to crash each and every single week. So keep that in mind with Eric Jones. But he is starting so far back. The guy's a decent road course racer now. The numbers at the Rovals, they're not amazing. He has 1 top 5 finish, 2 top 15s, and only 2 top 20s. So it's not great. But if you expand that to the past 10 races at road courses, the numbers definitely get a little bit better. Average finish of 14.3, 3 top 5 finishes, and 6 top 10s with 7 top 15s. So I think Eric Jones is going to be fine. He did finish 11th here at the road course last season. Now, some of you may have some concerns that he did, get much worse equipment. He went from the 20 car at Joe Gibbs, which is definitely one of the top rides in the series, to the 43 car of Richard Petty Motorsports. Equipment shouldn't be too big of a deal here. Road courses are more so driver than it is car, so I don't think we're going to have too many concerns with Erik Jones. Now, if we're at a 1.5 mile track, we're definitely not going to play Erik Jones nearly $8,000 unless he's starting in the very, very back. So his upside's going to be limited to those tracks, but at a road course and super speedways, he should be just fine. And starting in 37th, he is right up there with Alex Bowman as being one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. And I think it's a mistake to not play him in cash games personally. Then dropping on a Christopher Bell, kind of funny enough, he's the guy that stole Erik Jones' ride last year. So Christopher Bell starting 12th. It makes him a pretty risky play because I feel like he'll probably finish right around where he starts. And with all the place differential we have on this slate, I just don't really see the allure of wanting to play Christopher Bell. I think he has some top 10 upside here. Now, we don't really have much of a sample size to use for him at road courses because he's only made 2 career road course races in the Cup Series. But in those 2 races, he did have an average running position of 13.3, and that was a much worse equipment. Maybe not much worse equipment, but it was definitely a worse equipment. Now he's on a really good ride. I could see him contending for a top 10 here, but I don't think it's going to be enough for him to make the optimal lineup unless he happened to crack the top 5, pick up some fast laps, and maybe contend for the win here, but that's not something I'm really expecting. Tyler Reddick, 7,500. He is starting in 24th. I don't think he's a bad play. He has an average finish of 15th at his first 2 Cup Series road course races, and they've both been at Roval, so I think we could probably expect for him to probably finish close to 15th, and he actually was not that bad in the Busch Clash. He actually finished 4th in that race, and I believe he was one of the lowest owned drivers, so I don't hate Tyler Reddick. I think he's a fine place differential play. I don't think the ownership's going to be too crazy because everyone's going to be wanting to play Erik Jones, Chris Buescher, maybe even Ryan Newman starting in 33rd, so Reddick should be decently low, and I don't think he's a bad pivot there. I don't absolutely love him, but he definitely has some top 15 upside here at a decent price tag. Ryan Newman, $7,300. He is starting 33rd. His history at the Roval so far hasn't been great, but it doesn't have to be great starting all the way back in 33rd. Now, I would much rather play Chris Buescher for $100 less, even though he's starting a little bit further up. But Ryan Newman's numbers at the Roval, his average finish at 23.3, which is kind of right on par with his average running position, a really poor driver rating, no top 10s, 1 top 15, and 2 top 20s. If you're looking at the past 10 races overall at the road courses, he doesn't even get much better. Running position at 20, average finish at 20.8. So really, those are right on par, and I like that because that's really what we should expect for the most part here. And he has a top 10, 3 top 15s, and 5 top 20s. So I'm not saying he's a bad play because he's starting in the very, very back. It's just I would rather play Chris Buescher, but Ryan Newman would be a direct pivot off of Chris Buescher at what should be lower ownership. And he did finish 19th here last year. So if you finish 19th starting in 33rd, I mean, it's not going to probably take down a tournament, but that's definitely not a bad play by any means. Now, someone I'm expecting to be very popular, it's Chris Buescher here, $7,200, starting in 30th. He is pretty good at the road courses. Not saying he's going to contend for a top 10 all the time, but he did finish 5th here last year. Now, it's a bit skewed. He got a little bit lucky at the end based off guys pitting, strategy, all those kind of things. So it worked out his way. He wasn't as good as his 5th place finish, but he definitely is not bad at the road courses, especially at the Rovals. He has an average finish of 15th, which is just fine starting all the way back in 30th. He has a top 5, and he's finished at the top 20 each and every single time. And if we're looking at the past 10 races at road courses, he's finished at the top 20 every single time. And the only other guys that can say that are Kevin Harvick, I believe, Kurt Busch, and also Denny Hamlin. So he's in good company there. Chris Buescher has been very consistent at the road courses, and that's all I'm asking for a guy at his price point and for where he's starting. So Chris Buescher, a very strong cash game play. I think he's fine in all formats for the most part. Cole Custer, $7,000. He's starting in 13th. I don't love Cole Custer, to be honest. He's just starting so far up. Maybe you have like 1 to 5% Cole Custer. He does have an average finish of 15.3, but again, even if he hit his average finish, that's still a couple spots further back than where he's starting. He also had an average running position of 20.3 at the Rovals last year. I know he had a top 10, but I don't love the upside that Cole Custer offers us, so I'll have very limited exposure to Cole Custer. Going down to the $6,000. Though actually, one thing I should mention about Cole Custer last year, he actually had the 3rd best green flag speed rating at the Roval, so maybe there's some top 10 upside there at very low ownership. I don't think he's a complete fade, but definitely someone to have very, very small ownership on just because of all the place differential guys that we have. Then dropping down to the $6,000 range. Gotta be honest, don't really like anybody here, so this should be a quick one. But Michael McDowell, I typically like him at road courses a lot. Very, very good road course racer. He just won the Daytona 500, which shout out to you guys if you had him at low ownership. I think he came in around, 10 to 11% owned. I thought he was a pretty good sneaky play. Ended up winning the race. I mean, hats off to Michael McDowell. That was fun to see. It's always fun to see a a lower name driver win the Daytona 500. It's always cool. But I mean, I like him at road courses, but starting second, I just can't play him. He's not going to pass Chase Elliott early on. Even if he did somehow get a really good jump on Chase Elliott or Denny Hamlin's going to take that over quick. He should drop outside of the top 10 here. He might contend for a top 10, but very, very, very limited upside here for Michael McDowell. The floor is super, super low. I don't think the ceiling's that high either. Same goes for Austin Dillon. Now, I don't like Austin Dillon at road courses, and now he's starting all the way up in third. Yeah, no thank you on Austin Dillon. 3 races at the road courses. He has an average finish of 27th, running position of 23.2, and if we expand this to the past 10 races at road courses, I mean, the numbers aren't that much better. 0 top 10s, 0 top 15s, and only 3 top 20s. So Austin Dillon, Michael McDowell are probably 2 of the best fades on the entire slate. Ross Chastain, I know he's a new equipment this year, but I am not going to play him starting in 9th. He is more than likely going to fall. Bubba Wallace, I know he's in good equipment this year. He definitely upgraded from the 43 car, but his numbers at road courses just aren't that great. At the Robles, an average finish of 26.5, running position at 23.3, 0 top 20s, half a fast lap, a pretty poor driver rating. I know the car upgrade should do him well this season, but I don't think that's going to be a big factor here at the road course. So I don't see him holding his position, and more than likely he's going to definitely fall quite a few spots. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's usually a guy that's going to be inside the top 20 for the most part, and the price is not that bad. So the only reason you're going to play Stenhouse is because of the $6,100 price tag, because he's a guy that can, stay in that 15th to 20th spot, which these other guys, I mean, they'll probably definitely lose spots. I don't think Stenhouse is the worst play. Stenhouse is probably the best play in the $6,000 range. It's just overall, I don't really want to play Stenhouse. He has an average running position just inside the top 20, but even if he gets his average finish or mix that with his average running position, he's still going to lose a couple of spots here, which I think is pretty likely. Now, like I said, he's frequently inside the top 20 in his finishes at a road course, but that's probably not going to be good enough for where he's starting. So Stenhouse is a fringe play, but I would say he's my favorite play in the $6,000 range, but I don't really like any of these guys whatsoever. Anthony Alfredo, $5,900. He's starting 31st. He's fine in a pinch. I don't think the upside's going to be there. I was looking at the numbers last year at road courses. I think he only ran 1 last year in the Xfinity Series. Didn't really go all that well. I think he could probably gain a couple spots, but it's mainly just a price play if you're playing Anthony Alfredo. Daniel Suarez, $5,700. He is starting 35th. No longer in the lawnmower. Now he's still not in top tier equipment. He's in the 99 car for Trackhouse Racing, which does have, he has Pitbull on the board there. So they got a little bit of funding, but it's definitely not going to be anything crazy. But starting 35th, he did finish 27th here last year, and I think his car is a bit of an upgrade now. Now I know their team is mostly focusing on the next gen car next year, but if he can pick us up close to 10 spots, that is not a bad play starting 35th. So I don't mind Daniel Suarez as a cheap play. Same goes for Ty Dillon, starting all the way back in 38th at only $5,600. I know he's in the lawnmower now. He took over Daniel Suarez's ride, but I don't think he's going to finish all the way back here, and I think we're probably going to see him contending for a top 25 in his recent road course races, which I don't know why they don't pop up on my sheet. I'm going to have to fix that, but he's typically been in that 20th to 25th place range, and it's not like he was in top tier equipment in the 13 car anyway, so if he can compete for a top 25 or a top 30, that's fine for me for where he's starting. I feel like he's almost a lock for positive place differential because he should be able to get past guys like Cody Ware, Quinn Houff, Garrett Smithley for the most part, so Ty Dillon for where he's starting, I think that makes him a very, very strong, cheap place differential play. Justin Haley, he has some good road course numbers in the Xfinity Series, but starting in 20th, that's going to be really hard for me to want to play him. So I think he's a very fringe play for someone I'll have minimal ownership on. Ryan Preece starting 6th. His numbers don't justify wanting to play him starting all the way up in 6th place. I know he's cheap at $5,300, but I mean, if he contends for a top 15, that's fine, but he's definitely going to lose quite a bit of place differential here. He's got an average running position of 18.8, average finish just inside the top 20. He is starting way too far for me to want to have any interest. Now, James Davison here, JD Davison, whatever you want to call him, he's only $5,200. He's starting in 39th, and the guy's not that bad at road courses, and I actually think he's one of the best cheap plays on the slate. I know he doesn't have the most exciting name in the world, but in 2 Roval races so far for Davison, he's actually averaging 22.8 DraftKings points per race, an average finish inside the top 30, running positions right on par with that, running position of 30.9. I know the numbers aren't fantastic, but he's actually averaging 8 place differential spots, positive place differential spots per race. So starting all the way back in 39th, he only has to stay above Timmy Hill for the most part. And I think Davison could contend for a top 30 finish here. And at only $5,200, he's the guy that's going to allow us to fit in guys like Ryan Blaney, Truex, Chase Elliott. So I do like Davison quite a bit here. Timmy Hill, he's starting, and that's really the only nice thing I could say about him is that he can't lose you any spots, but that's about as far as it goes. And 4 races at the Robles for Timmy Hill, average finish of 33.8, running position of 34.1. yeah, he could gain a couple of spots. I guess he'd be a pivot off of Davison, who I think might have a little bit of ownership. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. People don't like playing these guys down here, but he can't lose you a spot. So if you want to fit in all the studs, I don't hate Timmy Hill here. Just limited upside for sure. Corey LaJoy starting 7th. No thank you. Then all these other guys, I really don't want to play. Balicki, Heckert, Ware, Half, Smithley, they're all starting a little bit too far up based on how they finished the Daytona 500. So if you're going to go really cheap, I do like Davison, but outside of that, don't really like anybody else for the most part. And with that being said, I think that's going to be it for the video, guys. So I appreciate all of you watching. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing who makes it through the entire video. If you want to follow me over on social media, handles in the bottom corner of your screen. Chris Pennell 16 on Twitter, cpen16 over on IG. And if you help support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below for that if you want access to all the extra content that you get access to. And I'll put that right on the screen so you know exactly what you get access to. Hop to the Discord chat as well. And yeah, that's going to be it. If you want into the DraftKings contest, make sure you comment your username down below. Don't miss out on the live streams that are going to be around 10:30 or 11 a.m. Eastern on my channel. And then I'll be in the Awesome Live Before Lock show at 2 p.m. Eastern until the NASCAR slate locks. So that's going to be it, guys. Appreciate all of you guys watching once again and supporting the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video.